What's up, everybody? It's Zach here, and today we're going to be discussing how to pose your characters in a more dynamic way. Now, the pose of a drawing really makes everything. It makes the drawing pop, it makes it interesting, and it makes people want to look at it more. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is draw a circle. Alright guys, thanks for watching, enjoy. But in all seriousness, we're going to make this our head. So let's go ahead and decide what character we're drawing. I'm thinking we should draw a sword fighter in the midst of battle. And it's, of course, going to be an anime girl because that's apparently all I can draw. So let's decide which way is she going to face. I say she'll face 3/4 turn left. So go ahead and draw a crosshair right where you want the middle of the head to be. Be sure to curve the lines of your crosshair so that they go around the head. After you do that, you want to just contour out a head. Dip in a little bit where the eyes go, and then extend the chin down the center line that you drew. Now this isn't a head tutorial, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw a good face. But I will put out a head tutorial sometime in the near future. If this one does well, that might be the one that's next. You know what? I think we'll just skip to a few minutes into the future when I actually have this face and the expression done. Alright, now that I've got her head done, I want to decide what kind of pose I want her to do. Judging by how her head is, I know I want her body to kinda curve this way. Go ahead and draw out the main way the body of your character is going to curve and kind of mark where the front of the body is going to end up. We want her to kind of turn around, draw a little triangle where her pelvis is. And then just kind of sketch a little stick figure out of how you want it to look. Go ahead and sketch out the shoulders. You want the shoulders, if you're going to go really dynamic, you want them to lean away the opposite direction of the hips. These are going to end up being the hips, and these are the shoulders. The way I do arms is a little bit weird. So you kind of draw where you want your wrist to end up. And I want mine to end up right here because she's kind of swinging this sword. Then you go halfway down the line. And that's where your elbow will be. You just have to kind of put it out the right way. Actually, we'll make this a two-handed sword. We'll have that be right there. Again, same sort of method with the arms, except modified a little bit because this is going to use some perspective. Alright, but now we have the basic pose drawn. This pose is super dynamic because of two things. One, it's got a nice curve. You can see the curve in the main part of her spine right here. Straight lines are usually boring when it comes to poses like this, so you really want to be dynamic and do curved lines with poses like this one. It's also dynamic because it has what I like to call the twist. The twist is where your bottom half of your character is facing one way, while the top half of your character is facing the other. So she's doing a little bit of a twist, giving off that sense of motion that you really need in order to have a good dynamic pose. Go ahead and start toning out the arms and the body. Just kind of draw balloons where the joints are and where the muscles are, and then just, I don't know how to describe it, tone them down a little bit, I guess. Need to fix this hand. I'm not gonna spend too much time on these hands because I need to, well, I'm gonna do hands as another tutorial. In order to get really good dynamic hands, have the index joint stick up a little bit more than the others. It'll look like it's actually doing something and not just wrapping around, even though it is just wrapping around. Let's just say she's a newbie and doesn't know how to hold a sword right. Now let's tone this shoulder out. Get that bicep, and you want to make sure that all your muscles are round. At least in my style, I always do my muscles rounded. And for the torso, you want to go in and then out. She's bending over right here, so that's going to be extreme, while this is sort of stretched. Again, it's not straight, it is curved. You want to curve it in and then back out at the waist. I'm going to draw armor on her later, but for now she'll just have that. And you'll notice I have the legs sketched out here. They kind of still follow this main line. You want to make the whole body follow this line. Even the hair, when you do the hair, it's still going to curve that way. You want to make everything go in the same direction. Except for, of course, top half of the body faces that way, bottom half of the body faces that way, and make sure you keep your sketch clean. Or at least you try. Now you want to go ahead and start doing the legs. Now legs are really fun to do if you know what you're doing. Anime legs in particular are usually a little bit longer than what's considered realistic, but that's also a stylistic choice. Usually you want your legs to be about 1.25, 1.5 times as long as the torso is. Crotch needs to come up a little bit. Bent legs are a little bit easier because we can hide that foot behind there. I'm going to make that one bent, and the other one's going to be kind of digging into the ground, which is also really fun to do because then you get to twist the foot, and that's another twist you get to add to this drawing. So for knees, remember you bump out for her glutes. You can go with a bulge for the thigh, come into the knee, bulge out for the shin and for the calf, and then taper back in for the ankle. Now you'll notice everything's kind of moving this way, so it's kind of moving all this way. So you want her foot to dig into the ground and curve that way too, if you're going to have it dig into the ground. So it's going to come this way first. It's going to come that way first because it's going to follow the leg. The main base of the foot is going to follow the leg. You want to bump out, curve in, and then the toes are what's going to sort of bend and give off the impression that, oh, she's running. And that's a nice dynamic pose, though I may have made this leg a little too long. But that's okay because it still looks nice and full of motion. That's the key to making a dynamic pose. Full of motion and emotion. You'll notice how she's sort of charging into battle even though she's holding this sword completely wrong. She doesn't know what she's doing, and I'm horrible at drawing hands holding swords. Now I am going to make this head a little bit smaller, but this also shows that, hey, no one's perfect. So we'll do that, and you still want to make the neck nice and slender. Or bigger if you're going for a bigger person. Make the neck appropriate to the character. Now since the front is over here, down here, and it's over here, up at the upper part of the body, the fronts of clothes are going to be in different spots. So what you really want to do is even add a little bit of a twist to the clothing and still make it follow the line. So you notice how we're going to start off with probably one of the hardest pieces of clothing to completely master, the skirt. And you'll notice that the whole body is curving this way, so our skirt is going to curve this way too, but it's going to start right about here. It's going to curve out a little bit, but it's still got the curve of the body going with it. Now for a skirt, you want part of it to curve down like that, and then part of it to go up like that. I drew that skirt a little too high, so we're going to, again, curve out, and go down and up, and then curve it around her body. That's the basic shape of the skirt. Congratulations, you are now a professional in the anime drawing field. Look at you go. Now that you have the basic shape of the skirt, you can actually get a little fancy. An easy way to get fancy is to segment it, kind of like this. The bottom segments should be a little bit bigger than the top segments, so we're going to make that a little bit bigger and make it more flowy. So that way you can do this. Kind of make the ends kind of like a saw. You want it kind of like a saw. What this allows you to do is to easily draw wrinkles and pleats. Now that's the easiest way to do it. If you know a better way, do that better way. Remember, I am not a professional. This is just how I personally draw stuff. And it allows you to even add a bit of the back of that skirt. Let's actually, for this skirt, the curvature doesn't look right when you try and make it really flowy. So let's just make the curve go around like this instead of whatever I was trying to do like that. So that way we can draw a bit more of the skirt and give it more of a three-dimensional feel. Hope you weren't drawing in pen. Now the belt is easy. The belt you can just rest on top. I'll go into more detail about all this kind of stuff later. But for now, this is fine. I will do a clothes tutorial maybe next episode. I'm not sure. I'm going to make that collar round instead of pointed. We're going to give her some nice armor. For armor, if you really want to make it feel like armor plating, have it bump up a little bit off of her skin or the rest of her clothes underneath. That way it actually feels like there's something on top rather than it just being part of her clothes. Remember that armor curves all the way around the body. It is not just a front piece. We're going to go ahead and add to this and give her a little corset. I think a corset would work if she's like a medieval knight charging into battle. And you want to also make sure that it curves with the body. For corsets, you want to definitely stop it before it gets to the waist or before it gets to the hips. Remember, corsets help to pull in the waist a little bit. Remember, as you go to erase any parts of your old sketch, you want to keep it clean so you can work in details later. You know what? For this, let's give her nice long sleeves, and I can kind of show you how to easily make dynamic clothing. You want to make her sleeves nice and big and then just curve it up to her arm, and then make it a little bit loose at the elbow. You always want to add a little bit of wrinkle wherever there is a joint, as a general rule. Kind of add A little bit of one here around her shoulder, this kind of loose fabric. And we will do the same thing around that shoulder. Give it nice loose sleeves. Since that one is pointing sort of towards us, we'll make it a bit more ovular. Alright, so now that we have her upper body clothes done, let's work on some armor and clothes for her legs. Now, since she's wearing a skirt, she won't be wearing any pants per se, but she might wear some pretty big boots. So we're going to go ahead and mark. The boots will be curved because everything is curved around the body. The boots will be curved around here. Add some flaps to the top. And now, just like before, we're going to add wrinkles and creases wherever there's a joint. Except for the knee right here, because that's where the boots come up to. So there's a joint right here. Right here, right where her ankle is. So we're going to make it come out and then back in. Just like that. And that makes her seem like she's wearing bigger boots. Let's add a tongue to it. Maybe add a strap or two. Now her foot is helping push off. So we're gonna have to make this look like it's actually digging into the ground. So add some curve. And you can kind of, that's usually up to like the effects around it. But for now, we're just gonna add one more strap around right here, I think. Now, when drawing boots, and more on this in my clothes tutorial, don't ever forget that on all of your shoes there is a sole. There is never a shoe without a sole, unless you go barefoot. Alright, that is looking lovely. And finally, we can work on the hair. Now, for dynamic hair, you really want to make it wavy, like it's blowing in the wind, because she's moving forward and swinging her sword. Never forget the ears. Ears are usually, bottom is right where the nose is, top is right where the middle of the eyes are. But ears are not the hard part. Well, they kind of get hard, but only if you make them hard. Make sure your hair is a little bit rough. It just adds a little bit of movement. You can give her what I like to call the anime antenna. Now you'll notice her hair sits a little bit higher than her head would. And that's because, well, that's how hair works in the real world. You have hair, but it's on top of your head. And don't be afraid to have a little bit come in front of her like that. So it blocks off part of the neck, and I guess makes your job a little easier, because now you get to do whatever you want with it. And see how it's kind of just rough out here? We're going to actually completely change how we do it. And remember, none of this is final. You can change however much you want of this anytime after you get done with it. Just kind of add some stuff to it. Make it fancy. And now I think all that's left is to clean this up. Move her over a little bit because I didn't have enough room for this. Notice I'm not changing the drawing itself at all, I'm just changing how big it is. So that way, when I post it, it's a little bit better than having it just small and at the center of the page. I'm gonna draw her sword, but we're gonna make it... We'll make it... This is the skinny side. This is going to be the thick side. That's going to be the edge. We'll color her hands dark because they're gloves. And after that, I think that's it for this tutorial. So thank y'all for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you want more. And I hope y'all have a fantastic time drawing.